John Williams, right now head coach of GS United. I am also technical director, if you may use those terms, but overseeing the women's program right now, doing some management for the men's team. I would say about, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I would say about late 1990s, a gentleman named McIver Brooms actually brought me over to the GS United Soccer Club. At the time I was playing still in it would have been the CSL with St. Catharines. Shortly after St. Catharines, he said, John, there's a Scarborough team. They got a lot of young, talented black young men that just need a little guidance and direction. So at that point in time, I decided, along with Mac, to come over and join them for an indoor season. There was a lot of talent, a lot of good Caribbean talent. So at that point in time, I came over as an assistant coach to a guy named Richard, and I don't know Richard's last name. That's just age. Richard was the coach at the time, and I was still coming in from St. Catharines, and we tried to start building the men's program, as this was the first year they were playing elite soccer, provincial soccer at that time. So that was the highest level of amateur soccer. So within a year, I guess I was a player coach. That evolved into just the coach, because I felt like the game needed, all focus, all eyes on these young kids, and I think I just needed to give back. And I was probably at the end of my career in my, I would say 30s, I'd say mid-30s, about 35 to about 37 years old, and it was just time to give back. So I stepped in and started coaching. Still remember it like it was yesterday. First season, we finished in the middle of the pack, but we had a fantastic second half of the season run, winning roughly, I would say probably 8 in a row, and just falling into the middle of our division. Mm-hmm. So it was a good little transition, good little run, and shortly after that we went on to pick up a few more players and really start building GS and make them the club that they are today.
So if I remember correctly, being part of the staff in 2003 or so, the club, the men's side of the club was very potent. The potential was high. The club started expanding, and then there were the glory days of the 2005 winning the national, and you fast forward now to 2018, and you have 8 years behind you with the women's program.
Yeah. So and that's another chapter. I think what happened was that essentially the men's side from 2005 for about close to 7 years, 8 years, we were top of OSL, and I would say it was getting tough to motivate that bunch of guys to want to practice as they got further into their lives and their careers. It was time for a changeover. So a gentleman named Brent Martin came over to me.
Did it have something to do with also the age of the players too?
Yeah, most definitely. Those players were definitely getting older and starting families, and soccer wasn't the most important thing in their lives.
Yeah.
Right? So they moved on. I mean, always, as they still remain a part of this club. It's a family first, a club second. And
so when did the women's, I remember interviewing Dave, I can't remember if it's 2010, 2011, and he was hinting to me that people were onto him about having a women's program. Did he approach you as the head coach? How long you been the head coach?
Well, I would say from the minute I kind of came in and Richard gave that up, I pretty much took over from 19, I'd say 98 or 99.
So Dave must have spoken to you in regards to forming this women's program.
No, the one thing about our relationship is Dave has always trusted in me to know that I would always do what's best for the club. And again, for sure, after I met up with Brent and a young lady named Amy Lynn, we had a couple meetings. Then I thought the fit was good, and I thought it was important to then get Dave involved and get his blessings. As I knew once I gave him the blessings, it would be okay with Dave, Uncle Dave.
So the Brent and the Amy Lim, were they in the same organization in pertaining to the women's side of soccer, or they were separate meetings, separate acquaintances?
Yeah, separate. I think Brent knew a couple of the young ladies at the time that played on Amy's team, so it seemed as if they were ready for the next step, which was provincial, and really didn't have a home to play out of, and obviously between regional and provincial financially, you need some help financially. So at that point in time, I think they must have approached Brent, had a conversation with Brent, looking for some financial help, some coaching, and a marriage. And so I met up with them first. In fact, we had this meeting in this office here 8 years ago when we met, had this meeting, and it was like a trial run for an indoor season. That's how we started it.
Oh, you started with the indoor season?
Yeah.
Well, that's the best way to see skill level.
Yeah, we started with an indoor season, and we had some real skillful girls, right? Short on the discipline side, but definitely a good, skillful bunch of ladies, young ladies.
Okay, and what
transpired?
what is in your estimation you're ready for the next level?
Well,
or is that was that all orchestrated to see what you were getting involved in, or because the union came at the indoor time, so the quickest thing was to do is put it in an indoor program?
Well, to be honest with you, I truly didn't plan on heading off the program. Unfortunately, Brent and the girls, through his different coaching styles, and maybe he was early in his coaching career at the time, they just didn't see eye to eye. There was a few little differences in which at that point Brent decided that, and the girls, and we all decided that it would be a better fit if he was not the coach. So somehow I got swayed from the guy side now to start managing the girl side 8 years ago.
Okay, and how did you look at that? How did you?
Well, it was a big transition. I mean, obviously, you've been in the business long enough to know that you can talk to men one way and you can't talk to women exactly the same way. There's different phases in their life, whether it be home, boyfriend, physical. They're very emotional bunch of people, and it was just a big adjustment for me. So yeah, it was work in progress for myself, and I'm sure they can tell you it was having somebody tell them what to do, what time to do it, and try to instill the discipline that's needed to be good at this sport was I wouldn't say an issue, but it was where we started. I think that's the piece that we needed, because technically we were very good, we were fit, but we lacked on that discipline side of it.
Well, I guess when you're coming into structure like GS, the discipline always seems to be challenged, because structure, that's what structure calls for. So you take over the team, and it seemed like you almost had instant success.
Well,
in the outdoor.
It would always appear that way when you go 8 seasons and you win your league for 8 straight seasons. You win multiple league cups. You win Ontario Cups. you fall short of national championships, it really looks like it's easy, but there was many late nights in this office. The dynamics of the team, changing the dynamics year to year. It's a lot of work. It's work in progress, and as good as you are in Ontario, it's another animal or beast when you're going for the Canadian Championships, and you need to be a little bit lucky. So, what always looks easy doesn't appear as easy as it seems.
Was it an adjustment or a concern or a problem with the success you've been having, almost a shoe-in for the Ontario Cup? So was there a problem in getting things your way in a league, and you're going to a knockout stage and you're always coming out with the cup? I mean, somebody has to do a piece of work. No matter what you say in tactical or whatever, they always come out on top. So was that an issue going into the nationals?
I would say it's really a combination, right? Mm-hmm. So let's look at it this way. If you have 3/4 of your team practicing and a quarter of your team away, or for whatever personal reason can't be there.
Is that a hypothetical, or that's the way it was?
Well, you can take that whichever way you
okay,
choose
all
to.
right. I just want to be clear for the public consumption.
And I get where you're going, nor do I want to mislead anyone, but I think it's important that I kind of put it out there in a broad way so that you can actually see somewhat the obstacles that's there.
Okay.
They're not paid athletes. Mm-hmm. They have family, they have lives. Commitment was good, but could it have been better? 3 weeks break where there's no games to get. Everybody's pretty much wound up their season, and you've got to find a way to physically motivate them to get outside. And it's cold. Okay? It becomes challenging. Honestly, it becomes challenging. It's not as easy as it looks, mm-hmm. right? And as much as you're driven and you are the best team in Ontario, the best isn't always going to win championships. You need a little luck. You need to be. You need to have game plans. We've had game plans and just fallen short. One mistake crushes you at the national level. It's mm-hmm. not like here where we can get away with things just because we're technically better. At the national level, everybody's good.
Well, that's what I'm understanding. So, but as I said to a couple of people before you, it still needs to be explained that there was 5 tries before the 6th one, and it's really good. It shows a lot of perseverance and stuff, and sticking to the grind to pull this off. So it's not really a slight in any way with the falling short. I think this is a good story for people to understand that, and both of us you had lots of explanation for this, but I'm really happy for this, and I just want people to understand that within the falling short, there's something once you continue going at it.
Well, essentially it's teamwork, mm-hmm. right? There's no substitution. There's no substitution for everybody being present and practicing and knowing what the team goals are. So I go back and I say, as much as you have family and whatnot, the difference between this year and every other year is that for that 3-week period, mm-hmm. they all committed to be at practices 3 times a week. So it was easy for us to set ourselves up much before getting there, defensively, offensively, the many different ways we were going to play, because everybody was there to walk through it. So there wasn't any holes in it, and it wasn't like we're repeating ourselves. For 3 weeks we did the same thing with all the girls there. So yeah, a little bit different this year. But, if you go once and you go twice and mm-hmm. you go back 3 times and you're offensive, something has to change. If it's not working for you, you got to go in there with a different strategy.
Yeah. Did it help to know the teams understand that it was the same familiar opponents?
Well, yeah, it definitely helps, and I can honestly tell you, between Amy and myself, we've had many for the last 5 years, many late nights where we're trying to pull up videos of other teams and trying to do a little bit of education on the teams and players that we're playing against. And sure, the more you're in this game and the more you see the same faces, the easier it becomes. And here we are 5 years later, and on the sixth try, yeah, we got it, right?
Yeah. Now into you make the Ontario Cup, which is the prerequisite to go to the national. You do your 3 week preparation, as you just mentioned. You're familiar with the teams, so you have your advanced scouting. You look at your footages and stuff. Then comes the competition, and you understand you win the first 2, and you lost the third one.
Well, we didn't really lose the third one. I know on record, yes, you're correct. On record, it shows up as 1-0.
That's right. You
Right?
lose the third one.
So, yes, you can say we indirectly lost the game, and obviously, you never want to put everything on officiating and opportunities, but I can, after clearly reviewing it and other people reviewing it and other referees reviewing it, you can clearly see it was a ball to hand, not a handball. The re-kick that was taken was definitely a save of the ball. It was a save, but that's football, right? They're human. Things happen. We make mistakes, and then on top of it, we definitely had at least 5 clear-cut chances that we just didn't score. So I mean, yeah, we lost the game, but I left that game.
Well, just so the public understand, this game we're talking about is just the third of the 3 games she has played in the. They still advanced, so we don't want to stay too much on this loss, like the team lost. But this was just part of their progression.
That's part of the pool play, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was an important game. And again, when we talk about the loss, I was quickly showing you that for me, I felt like we're in a good place because we created opportunities. It's not like we got outplayed. We created many more opportunities than the other team. And because of our ability to have scored 3 goals in the first game, from a goal different perspective with a 3-way tie going in, I mean, at the end of the day, we had the best record between Quebec, Alberta, and ourselves.
That's right. And that I just wanted to get the schedule information out of the way, and then you go into uncharted waters. You have never been, I just understand that it's at this level where you play the 3 games, there's branching off to the goal, and you either go to the bronze. I wasn't aware of that. So now you're going to the gold medal game for the first time in the 6 tries. That
5 tries.
5 tries, right?
Yeah.
This is 6. You won the 6.
We won the 6.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the first time you go into the goal. So, as I asked many before you, what was the feeling like the night before? The feeling like after you realized you were advancing?
Well, it was really emotional because at the time, right after the game, there was some very sad girls crying. Again, for myself, I was ecstatic just with the performance that they put forth, right? So I had read the rules, and my understanding of the rules were a little different than what we initially heard. So there was so much gray area that a few different people said you're in, you're out. It was chaos.
Yeah.
It essentially was chaos there. So
who gave you the final?
Well,
you remember when they come to you and said you're in?
I was there watching the men's play at that time, and they told me that I was in, and I said I'm not in until I see it on the board. I kept so they were updating a schedule there, and I was just waiting for that schedule to be updated. As much as they told me I was in when I was there, I wasn't taking that as being in. I wanted to see it for myself. So yeah. So the minute, I think it was probably about. I do believe we played that game at 12, so I would say it was probably around 3 to 4 o'clock that I realized if for sure that we're in the
And
tournament.
what happened? How was the
Wow.
whole team? What happened? What's the explosion? It's like,
Well,
you
like
know, back to the grind, back to the game plan,
I
or
think
release?
I think it was a big release. I knew the girls knew going into it. Like after talking to so many different coaches, players, we probably left the place knowing that we did leave the place knowing that we were in. But again,
Things could change.
things could change. Things could change. So we just waited to hear about it, and again for them it was business as usual. Back to the hotel, get your ice baths in, dinner at I don't know 6 o'clock, maybe 7 o'clock, early to bed, and I'd have a review with them in the morning.
But going to bed with the thought that you're in the next morning, though.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
At that point, we knew we were definitely in the morning.
So Coach Williams have to call curfew.
Nah, these girls were very responsible. This time around, you can see that they were driven. I never had to manage them or worry if they were going to go out for a ginger ale or a water at night. You know, so I really didn't have to manage them. I thought, you know, they were a very responsible bunch this time around, and I think for themselves they didn't. They realized, you know, for some of them it was maybe year 2, year 3, but for a good core of the girls it was year 6. So they knew they just didn't want to have that on them anymore.
Your opponent, did you know your opponent going into the final?
Well, I had an opportunity.
The day of the game.
I had a little opportunity to get little pieces of them, get into a video, and just try to review one of their earlier games. But yeah, you can pick up little pieces, but obviously it's different when you're playing a national championship. Everybody alters. Like if I look at just my lineup, I mean, I changed my whole lineup completely. Right, I went away from what I've done the first 3 games and did something totally different.
Well, let me ask you this as a player that I knew before that's been in these big games and even won these big games. As a coach, you're aware of the big game. It's a territory that's different to being a player. You know, you rely on yourself and your teammates. How you feel you were toying with destiny, or you're going in new territory? As far as I learned, most of the teams in the final are close to being on par. So any little edge you figure you had with your team? I mean, I know you would have confidence in the team, but based on the opposition, how you thought you match up to the opposition?
Well, I mean, we were a well-rounded team. We're a well-rounded team. We have a lot of team speed. We got a lot of players that are technically good players that can play the game. So I felt like we could really play with anyone. It was just whose body was the strongest, who wanted it more. Essentially, who really wanted it more. And for me, I just felt like, you know, every game I probably started the game with some speed and went out there and tried to run that team and kind of dictate what we do and how we do it. And, you know, I felt like this finals was going to be a little bit different, so I approached it differently. I went into it with a slower, more methodical team as opposed to speed. And I felt like, you know, our first half of soccer was a really good half of soccer. Then I injected some speed into the game, and I would tell you we were good, but probably not as creative, right? And slowly to get a good combination, a good blend of speed and technical players on the field. And
so based on your experience, you're making me believe now that getting the opportunity now, you use all your resources and your experience as a player and a coach to try to keep this close to steal it, or
well, I wouldn't say we stole the game.
No, well, you said you started slow tactically with your personnel, and then you wanted to sort of overwhelm them or see where they were at in terms of putting some vertical pressure on the opponent was what, BC?
BC. So they had a defender that was real good that could kick the ball 3/4 of the field, even 5 days later. That's how strong she was, and she was an intricate part of their whole defensive line, because obviously with a little bit of wind,
That's important.
she was relieving a lot of pressure for them from kicking bypass the midfielder. They were very direct in which they played the ball from defense straight up to forwards. They had a forward runner who was technically good. She was tricky with the ball, and she could play ball. So we needed to be mindful of both those two players. So were they a real threat? I don't think they had more chances than us. They definitely didn't have more chances than us, right? But that's why we lined up the way that we lined up. And I had a good bunch of coaching staff that I believe in. That we talk. I talk to them every single game. But this game here, I felt like, I was just going to make a decision, and that was it. I wasn't going to let anybody talk me in or talk me out of that lineup that I put together. And, hey, I could have lost the game, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, right?
Yeah.
It worked out, and, you give yourself a pat on the shoulder because it worked out, right?
Yeah. So you won the nationals, and what now for you in the coaching ranks? So how you see this? You think
Well,
it looked like the league is a shoo-in. I mean, I guess you're odds on to win your league. You're odds on to win the Ontario Cup 2019. But is it true to say that the nationals are really anybody's game, judging from the last 5-6 times you've been there?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I would tell you that the Ontario provinces always at a disadvantage where the local university players that you may have, you don't really have access to them. Where Quebec, for whatever reason, they have that week off, so they have access to all their players. Alberta have all that week off, they got access to all that players. Newfoundland has that week off, they got access to all that players.
You mean the week off at the nationals?
At the nationals, so their university teams are not playing games, so they get to bring their
Does that affect Ontario?
Well,
GS?
for sure it affects us because our university girls are in the midst, usually have 2 games, and it's hard to get them away from their university play. So
Every year it's like that?
every year it's like that, and there's so many little things that people are just not aware of, and sometimes it comes at a cost, or we might fly one over for 2 games and then she's gone. You know what I mean? So it's a tricky game when you're playing 5 substitutions when all year you're used to in and outs as many as you want.
Oh, so there's a tactical
Yeah,
difference too.
Yeah, there is. There is a big difference,
Oh.
right? All season long, when you're using your 18's going in and out of the game at will. Now you get to nationals and you're allowed 5 substitutions.
But wouldn't
for
it
the
make
game.
sense now? Is that just the unlimited substitution? Is that just in Ontario, or is that across until they reach the national?
I wouldn't know the other regions. I would make the assumption that it's just until the nationals, and then at the nationals they try to emulate obviously FIFA as much as they can, and instead of the 3 international changes, they allow 5 with a free one at halftime.
And what's your take on that in terms of either preparing for the higher level, just incorporating the rules of the 5, or you think based on development and unlimited substitution, the development system is better? What
Well,
this you lean towards that?
Well, this is where I feel like, I'm not going to say Ontario Soccer or CSA, if you want to use CSA. If we're saying it's a development league and we look at a lot of the leagues here and it's all about development, which I understand, then why are we putting parameters on how many times a player comes in and out, right? I mean, if we want the kids to play as much as possible and we want to develop them and they learn at a high level, then should we be putting those type of parameters on them when you know that, hey, as much as you do need to win, you do want to give a younger younger man or lady, young boy or girl, an opportunity to play in those environments. The score becomes 1-0, and you got 15 minutes to go, and now you can't use this young man
Yeah.
or young lady. How have you helped his game? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all at the end of the day,
Yeah, that's a catch-22
it's
situation.
definitely a catch-22. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I do believe if we're trying to get them ready, then we need them playing at the highest level. And I think putting a number on your substitution
At the national.
at the national level, I'm not sure. Really, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because, early in the game, you might be able to change your lineup knowing, hey, if they don't do as well, then you can get them out and it's not going to cost you a substitution.
Yeah,
Right?
but in marketing the game, just in case internationally or whatever, it might look kind of minor league to
For
have
sure,
the unlimited.
for sure.
So
And
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
And I get it.
Yeah, it's
And I
so.
truly get
So
it.
what's next with what's besides knowing that there's the challenge there for 2019?
So for me, I'm going to tell you that you can call it lucky, unlucky. I've won Ontario Cup as a player. I've won Ontario Cup as coach of the men's team. I've won Ontario Cup as coach of the women's team.
Mm-hmm.
I've won Ontario Cup as coach of the masters team. So I've only got one left to get, which is we've never put a women's masters team together yet.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's time to put a women's master team together, see if I can win that, and that could be the end of my chapter.
Well, but
You know?
your personnel, you're kind of short right now on that personnel, right?
Well, not
Or
really.
you could
No,
you
no.
think you could get that?
Definitely not. I could almost guarantee you. Don't want to take the words out of my mouth, but if GS were to put a team next year on the field,
On the Masters.
yeah, on the Masters, I can almost reassure you that it would be a championship team.
Okay, you hear it right here from Johnny Williams. I mean, he's getting a bit cocky here now.
Well,
after getting the big one here now, he's making predictions now.
Well, again, it's not cocky. It's just knowing your personnel.
Yeah.
And we have, as I said, we've got many girls playing competitively now that are of the age of 30. And understand that on the women's side, the Masters is over 30, not over 35. So it makes a big difference.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, John, thank you for the time, and I want to congratulate you and GS Club for doing well, winning the women's national. I understand the MJ team won. I understand the men won the division elite, the elite division, and I understand the Masters won the championship. So, as the head coach, I want to say there's a lot of success. Your winning is getting a bit contagious with you, and thanks for the time, and I wish you all the luck and all the best for 2019.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to acknowledge our soccer club.